Chapter 6. Poopgeing. Americana found herself before a vast circular plaza. At its center, a statue standing, approximately 17 meters tall, depicted a blindfolded woman holding a scale, a sign that the judiciary buildings were concentrated there. The chancellor walked toward one of the edifices, framed by towering Roman columns, and nodded for Americana to follow. They stopped in front of a plaque that read, "Powers of Thoth." "Finally, we're here, honey." "We're cutting it close, but we made it," said the chancellor. "I thought we were going to the precinct." "Madam Chancellor?" Americana questioned. "Exactly, honey. And here we are. Our precinct is called Powers of Thoth because it records the facts. Right over there, on the other side, is our public prosecutor's office, called Powers of Anubis because it weighs the facts. And there, in the center, stands our court of justice, called Powers of Osiris, because it decides upon the facts that have been recorded and weighed. Those smaller buildings, between the precinct and the court, and between the court and the prosecutor's office, that's where the lawyers are concentrated," explained the chancellor, as she ascended the white marble steps leading to the main entrance. 2 guards wearing electronic monocles stood at the entrance. The chancellor approached one of them. Americana noticed a green light, similar to the scanner used by Billy, flashing across the transparent lens of the monocle, and the guard allowed her through. Americana stepped forward. The guard looked directly at the QR code tattoo on her face and authorized her entry. Inside, people bustled back and forth in hurried movements. All of them wore eye monocles and black uniforms. The chancellor made her way to the information desk. The receptionist asked them to wait. While they waited to be seen, Americana asked, "Madam Chancellor, what is an oponym, and why are they dangerous?" "Oponym, honey, are beings made of several interlocked wheels surrounding a great eye. These wheels also have eyes, and within those eyes, there are even smaller eyes. They float and move in all directions. They're dangerous because they possess abilities that allow them to see things our natural eyes cannot. When they detect something strange, they generate a black hole that swallows whatever appears to be what it is not, and which might pose a threat. The oponym, when they feel threatened by something or someone, also have the ability to turn that something or someone into a statue of salt." "And why would you want to have an oponym in your office?" Americana asked. "Because they're excellent at finding files and documents with all those eyes. As much as I love my work, having a little help would be very welcome." The receptionist approached the chancellor and informed her they would have to wait approximately 3 hours, as an important operation was underway throughout the entire precinct building. The chancellor turned to Americana and said it was a good opportunity to grab something to eat and get to know the Geburah pyramid a bit better. But as they made their way toward the exit, a deep and raspy voice echoed, "Chancellor Chidark." Startled, the chancellor spun around abruptly and bumped into Americana, who had been walking just behind her, and both of them fell to the floor. While Americana was still on the ground, a pair of black shoes, so well polished they reflected her own face, stopped in front of her. A tall man, with a birthmark on the right side of his face, a deep wrinkle between his brows, a neatly trimmed goatee, and a black overcoat, stared at her with a fixed, solemn gaze. "Patron Uvo, fac FOEDUS," said the chancellor, her voice trembling. "What a pleasant surprise to find you here." The man showed no reaction. He continued to stare at Americana. The girl felt intimidated, quickly stood up, apologized, and positioned herself behind the chancellor. "I need you to be at the gates of Crown Eden at the exact time scheduled in your itinerary." "Do not be late," said Patron Uvo sharply. "Yes, Patron Uvo, honey. I would never fail to fulfill that," replied the chancellor, bowing her head. "I made a point of reminding you, so you don't forget to uphold your most fundamental obligations," he said. Then, turning again to Americana, "From what I can see, you've been engaging in menial tasks. Genuine wastes of time." An uncomfortable silence hung in the air. Then, Patron Uvo turned and vanished down the corridors of the precinct. "I nearly jumped out of my skin, honey," said the Chancellor. "That man always gives me chills." "He always does that." "Does what?" Americana asked. "He always shows up at the most unexpected moments. Arrives unannounced, silent. He's like a ghost." "I don't think he liked me very much," Americana observed. "Don't worry, honey. It's nothing personal. After all, he just met you." "He probably acted that way because he was the one most opposed to reopening the scholarship spot," the Chancellor replied. "Why?" "Well, honey, he's a patron of Equal 10. The Academy has several patrons. They invest a lot of money. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. And the least they expect in return is that their investment pays back double," said the Chancellor, taking a deep breath. "In your case, as a scholarship student, for now, you're only an expense. The Council had to reject a potential candidate from a noble family to open the spot you took. Rumor has it that this boy or girl, no one knows for sure, was Patron Uvo's godchild and the child of a high-ranking member of his company." Americana felt a tightness in her chest. The thought of having taken that spot without real merit made her feel guilty. The girl and the Chancellor resumed their path toward the exit. But as they crossed the door, this time it was Americana who bumped into someone, knocking her down. Americana managed to keep her balance and stay on her feet. "Ouch, damn it. Watch where you're going." Americana looked at the person on the floor. A tall girl with fair skin, perfectly symmetrical features, and long, meticulously brushed blonde hair had scraped her knee in the fall. "My God, you idiot. Look at this. I have a photo shoot all day tomorrow." The girl kept complaining, clearly irritated. "Come, love. I'll help you," said a deep, smooth voice. A light-skinned boy approached. He wore a crimson velvet blazer. His hair was half black, half white. He reached out his hand to the girl on the floor. "Mr. Known Rocky and Miss Blood Pure FOEDUS. What a pleasure to see you," said the Chancellor with a faint, conciliatory smile. "Please forgive the bump. Americana is new to our world. It's her first day." The boy and the girl stared at Americana. Their expressions remained indifferent. "FOEDUS. It's a pleasure," Americana began to say, but the girl cut her off. "Enjoy your spot while it lasts, scholarship girl. My best friend's brother won't be going to Equal 10 this year because of you. I hope you learn something while you still can," the girl snapped, brushing past Americana with a deliberate shoulder bump. "What's with that outfit?" the boy muttered as he followed the girl. "FOEDUS. Have a good day." "It was a pleasure seeing you," said the Chancellor in a firm voice, but the two were already gone, disappearing into the precinct. In that moment, Americana became certain that it wasn't only in the common world that people recognized her. It felt as though her arrival as a scholarship student had also become news in this new world. She turned to the Chancellor and asked, "Is there somewhere I can change clothes?" "Yes, honey. Of course, I'm sorry. We should have taken care of that the moment we got out of the car. But better late than never. Come, I'll show you a place where you can change, and then we'll go get something to eat." As they stepped down from the first stair of the precinct, Americana noticed the weather had changed in the blink of an eye. It was as if dense, dark clouds had suddenly covered the entire sky. "Madam Chancellor, I think it's going to rain." "No, no, honey. It's announcement time." "Look," said the Chancellor, pointing to the sky. The mirrored glass dome shaped like a pyramid, which covered the entire city, now displayed a massive LED light panel visible from every corner. And as the countdown began, Americana realized the announcement could also be heard by all. When the countdown ended, Americana saw the image of the girl she had knocked over just minutes earlier. On the giant screen, she appeared cheerful and smiling. FOEDUS, you know who I am. Before today's daily announcement, I came to leave a sweet little message. The scene then shifted to a cartoon called Poopkin. The theme song began, and 3 characters appeared. A mini robot in a unicorn costume named Fapunicorn. Another, dressed as a panda with a unicorn horn, called Pappendakorn. And the third, in a cat costume with a unicorn horn, named Fukatkorn. The 3 danced and sang in perfect sync. The scene cut back to the girl. Now she appeared with all 3 characters by her side. To face battles in the Solomon Coliseum and be the best in the King MatNat games, I count on the Poop King to feed me, give me strength, energy, and help with my studies at =10. The girl pressed Fapunicorn's belly, and a compartment opened, revealing soda cans. Then she pressed Pappendakorn, and colorful macarons popped out. Finally, she pressed Fukatkorn, and the compartment revealed popcorn, both salted and caramelized. Get yours now. Now featuring artificial intelligence in the latest, most updated version. Poopkin, it feeds you, and it teaches you. FOEDUS. Use the hashtag FF. The girl waved and smiled. The plush robots did the same. Then, a new countdown began, while a male voice narrated, FOEDUS the Imperium. At this moment, a call from Director Popes's Rock. Americana saw the image of what she assumed to be a bald woman. No eyebrows, extremely pale skin, dressed in a white monk's robe. FOEDUS the Imperium. With immense joy, I come to tell you all that, starting Monday, =10 Academy will return for yet another academic year. Our main focus, the King MatNat games, foundation of all civilization and human evolution. I summon all citizens to worship and devote themselves to the blessings of King MatNat. You are expected at the Solomon Coliseum. FOEDUS. The camera zoomed in on the woman's eyes. Then, the scene cut to a dark room filled with white mist. Suddenly, Americana saw on the screen the boy she had met just moments earlier. He was wearing a red chef's uniform and handling several sharp knives at once, with remarkable skill. FOEDUS. I am Gnome Rocky. I'm here to remind all =10 students, freshmen and seniors alike, that starting Monday, you must be armed with all your kitchen weapons. Sharpen your knives, polish your pans, and be ready for another school year under the blessings of King MatNat. I'm ready. Are you ready? FOEDUS. Use the hashtag FF. The screen went dark again, and a message appeared. This video is a production of the Imperium government. Novak Stry, 111 Foods, 777 Diary Television. So many questions swirled through Americana's mind that she felt her head might explode. It was as if a real traffic jam had formed between her thoughts. While she stared, stunned, at the LED screen, which had now returned to being merely part of the mirrored pyramid, Americana was snapped out of her daze by the Chancellor, who was already about 3 meters ahead, calling her name and waving her hands, urging her to hurry. Honey, we've got plenty of time, but we need to make the most of every second before we head back to the precinct. You heard Director Popes's Rock say the school year starts on Monday. That's the day after tomorrow, the Chancellor said, walking briskly. Madam Chancellor, I need to change clothes. Yes, of course, honey. Let's head to a Poopkin store. You can use the customer restroom there to change clothes. I'd like to grab a soda myself. I feel dehydrated with all this rushing around. And killing 2 birds with 1 stone, I also want to give you a welcome gift once we get there. After all, you're making history, honey. It's not every day that a place like the Imperium allows someone from the common world to enter The Chancellor walked briskly, with Americana right behind her, for 2 blocks past the plaza of the judiciary. Americana noticed that there were almost no cars on the streets, and the few that did pass were all luxury sports vehicles. The jump chrono station blinked constantly, like Christmas tree lights. The pedestrians walked wearing what Americana assumed were glasses with built-in phones and cameras. They spoke to themselves, pointed at empty spaces, and seemed to see things she simply couldn't. Then Americana caught a strong scent of cotton candy. Her attention was drawn by neon lights. Before she knew it, she was standing in front of a physical store filled with the plush robots she had just seen in a commercial on the LED screen. At the entrance, 3 giant mascots performed choreographed dances to the program's theme song. Inside the store, there were 3 floors connected by a staircase that played music with each step. To return to the ground floor, one had to go down a large spiral slide. The walls were packed from floor to ceiling with brand new models of the plush robots. It was impossible to focus on just one thing in that space. Everything was overwhelmingly colorful, filled with neon lights, sounds, and sweet scents. There was also a specific section of the store dedicated solely to refills, salty and caramel popcorn, sodas, and macarons of every color and flavor. A smiling girl, dressed in a hot pink suit and tie, approached the Chancellor and Americana. FOEDUS. How may I help you? FOEDUS, honey. Before we place our order, this girl would like to use the restroom. Please, said the Chancellor, addressing the attendant. As the attendant showed the way, Americana noticed she had put on a pair of prescription glasses similar to the ones worn by people on the streets. And 3 times in a row, Americana could have sworn flashes had been projected from the glasses in her direction, always when the attendant looked straight at her. This way. Make yourself at home, scholarship girl, said the attendant, looking at Americana, and another flash fired from her glasses. Americana opened the backpack with the vintage clothes Billy had given her. Inside, there was a denim jumpsuit with bunny ears sewn onto the back and a cartoonish drawing of a rabbit's face on the front. A pair of Converse-style sneakers, striped socks, a long-sleeve shirt matching the socks, and a denim jacket with a white Sherpa collar. On the back of the jacket, it read, "Follow the rabbit." Americana put on the outfit, tucked the prison uniform back into the backpack, and faced her reflection in the mirror. She thought to herself, since I arrived in the United States, this is the first time I've been given presents. She felt lucky. She had received the full outfit all at once. And surely those pieces would bring more color and life to her current wardrobe, which consisted of only 3 gray shirts, 3 pairs of jeans, and a hoodie. She spun in front of the mirror, admiring the full ensemble. Then she noticed that on the back of the jumpsuit, right at the butt, there was a small white Sherpa ball, about the size of a golf ball, imitating a rabbit's tail. Americana pressed the fluffy ball and burst into laughter. When she returned to the Chancellor, the attendant led them to a private room where customers could eat and rest. As she entered, Americana was mesmerized by the chandelier in the center of the room. It was made of hot pink and neon blue roses. The petals lit up and dimmed like the lights on a Christmas tree. The Chancellor and Americana sat at a table with 2 massage chairs. Americana was staring up at the ceiling in awe when she heard a neigh from one corner of the room. She looked and froze. Inside a white wooden pen lined with straw stood a real unicorn. She rose to her feet, enchanted. Her eyes sparkled at the sight of the creature. Then she noticed 2 other animals inside the pen, a panda bear with a horn on its forehead, and a cat also with a horn on its forehead. The Chancellor, noticing the girl's shock, stood beside her and asked, "Honey, are there unicorns in the common world?" "Only in fantasy books. I think I've gotten so used to life in the Imperium that I sometimes forget What's natural here and what's not natural in the common world? Madam Chancellor, is that unicorn real? Of course it is, honey. Thanks to the inventions and breakthroughs of Novak Stry. I thought that company only made mobile apps. Well, honey, that's what they show to people in the common world. In that sense, you're not wrong. But here in the Imperium, Novak Stry is behind practically every major advancement the scientific and technological community has ever seen. Madam Chancellor, but why does Novak Stry present itself to the common world only as a mobile app company? Why don't they show who they really are? Well, honey, that's because the people in the common world still aren't ready or mature enough to handle the advancements of the Imperium. Here, we're about 200 years ahead in both technology and lifestyle compared to the common world. It's as if out there, people still need time to assimilate, accept, and even believe. Whereas here in the Imperium, every kind of invention, whether physical or spiritual, that allows people to make more money is always welcomed with open arms. It's that principle we were talking about in the Einstein-Rosen. Remember, honey? You don't hand a nuclear weapon to a child and let them play with it. Americana stared at the unicorn. Then she looked at the panda bear with the unicorn horn. Finally, she fixed her gaze on the cat with a unicorn horn and asked, "So you're telling me this unicorn, the panda, and the cat were made in a Novak Stry laboratory?" Exactly, honey. Here, in our world, it's quite common for parents to gift their children with unicorns, dragons, even elves. Americana was stunned. Her jaw dropped. Wow! So that means, besides unicorns, dragons and elves exist too? Of course they do, honey. Thanks to the advances of genetic engineering. Thanks to Novak Stry, Americana wondered whether people from the common world she knew, like Lisa Soap, for example, would ever believe that dragons, unicorns, and elves were created in laboratories. She furrowed her brow, looked at the Chancellor, and asked, "Madam Chancellor, I think I might be missing something important." The Chancellor returned to the table, sat back in the massage chair, and motioned for Americana to sit as well. "Ask away, honey. I absolutely love explaining things to people. The people of the Imperium are either very rich, or they belong to a noble lineage from some royal family, right?" "Exactly, honey. But then there's you, your nephew, and some of your family who aren't human beings, right?" "Exactly, honey. We're beings who have always existed, but the people in the common world have become so skeptical of life's miracles that they simply can't see us. It's not because we hide here or anywhere else. We're everywhere, but only those who can see beyond what appears to be are able to notice our presence." Americana felt a small knot forming in her thoughts. She shook her head and continued, "What I still don't understand, Madam Chancellor, is why the people who are wealthier or nobler, the ones who live in these places of the Imperium, are more intelligent when it comes to inventing things in laboratories, if they're normal human beings just like me?" The Chancellor let out a laugh so loud that even the unicorn panda lost its balance atop the haystack where it had been lying. "You're wonderful, honey. That was a very good observation. You're absolutely right when you say that the people who live in the Imperium have ordinary brains and bodies. My species and I have always existed, even in the common world, which makes us almost human as well. But our brains, our intelligence, or even our capabilities are not, in essence, any different from a common person without money or nobility, living in the common world." Americana felt the knot in her thoughts begin to unravel. So, what is it that makes the people who live in the Imperium 200 years ahead of the rest of the world? The Chancellor narrowed her eyes, leaned forward, raised her index finger, and gestured for Americana to come closer. "What makes the Imperium bunker, and everyone who lives here, what they are, is..." Americana held her breath, widened her eyes, and fixed her gaze on the Chancellor's lips so as not to miss a single word. Pact. What? Americana asked, her face twisting in confusion. Pact, honey. An agreement. A contract. Americana felt her thoughts twist into a knot again. A contract with a company. Like Novak Stry? Americana wondered aloud. No, honey. A pact with demons. The knot that had formed in Americana's mind now felt like a snowball rolling down a mountain, growing larger and heavier by the second. Madam Chancellor, are you telling me that demons actually exist? I thought when you spoke about demons on the Einstein-Rosen bus, you were using a figure of speech. The Chancellor folded her hands atop the table and replied, Yes, honey. That's exactly what I'm saying. Demons not only exist, they are the ones who offer teachings in technology, point to where gold nuggets the size of the state of California are buried, and reveal where to find oil in such abundance it could trigger a tsunami. Americana began to feel as though that massive snowball in her mind was slowly starting to melt. I'll explain something to you, honey, that will help clear your thoughts. This time, it was Americana who folded her hands atop the table. Her ears and her attention were 100% focused. Do you remember the announcement on the LED screen we saw a little while ago? Yes, ma'am. Do you remember that Director Popes's Rock mentioned the name of a game called King MatNat? The image of the bald woman in monk's robes immediately came to Americana's mind. She nodded in confirmation. The King MatNat games are the foundation of all human civilization, in every area, physical and spiritual, scientific and religious. Let me ask you something, honey. Have you ever read the Holy Bible? Americana hesitated. She looked up at the ceiling, scratched her head, glanced down at the table, until her memory returned. Then she answered yes, that she remembered a few stories. Well then, there was a king around the year 966 BC named Solomon. King Solomon, the king of Israel. He was the son of the famous King David, the one who slew the giant. King David passed the throne to his son, King Solomon. Americana couldn't even blink. That's how deep her concentration had become. Very well, honey. King Solomon, the one who ruled Israel, one day had an encounter with God himself. And in that encounter, God asked him a question that could change anyone's life. If I could give you anything, what would you ask for? Money? Americana guessed, eyes wide. No, honey, wisdom. And that's when God gave Solomon a gift. But it wasn't gold, or a castle, or a magic-making machine. It was something far more powerful. A sphere bearing the seal of heaven and the abyss, capable of opening the gates between the visible and the invisible. And what did he do with that sphere? He didn't use it to fly or to turn invisible. He used it to summon demons. Demons? Yes, demons. They are ancient intelligences who know everything about everything. Mathematics, metals, stars, human emotions, energy, life and death, science, spirituality. Each one possesses a domain, like professors in different fields. King Solomon summoned 72 demons, one by one, as if founding a school with 72 teachers. He asked questions, and the demons were compelled to answer. He studied, took notes, understood, and with that, he built a kingdom no one ever managed to replicate. King Solomon is considered the richest and wisest king that ever was, is, and will be. And what happened to those 72 demons after King Solomon died? The Chancellor leaned back, looked up at the ceiling, then brought her eyes back to Americana with a more solemn expression. Some say the demons returned to where they came from. Others, that Solomon locked them inside a book. But the truth is, honey, they never really left. They simply began choosing who they would make a pact with. And that's where King MatNat comes in. That's the name of the sacred game that allows a common human being to gain access to forbidden knowledge in exchange for something that only they and no one else can offer. People here don't have different brains to invent surreal things or turn dreams into reality like unicorns and dragons. The people here just know how to ask for what they want from those who can truly grant it. Like a trade? Exactly, honey. It's about giving something that holds value to you. A real sacrifice. How does someone know if they've been chosen to make a pact with a demon? The Chancellor smiled and replied, "You always ask the right questions, honey. People know they've been chosen because they study at =10 Academy. Every student at =10 learns this. And how does someone know if what they have is important enough to count as a real sacrifice for a demon?" The Chancellor narrowed her eyes and gave a crooked smile. "Honey, you're starting to sound like a natural-born academic of =10, like a true citizen of the Imperium. You asked how someone knows if what they have is important enough for a demon to say yes to their request, right?" Americana nodded. "Very well, honey. Do you remember, once again, the commercial we saw on the LED screen when Gnome Rocky appeared talking about kitchen utensils?" Americana blushed. "Yes, Madam Chancellor. I accidentally knocked over his girlfriend." "Exactly, honey. You earn the favor of a demon through one of the 7 deadly sins. Have you heard of them? Do you know what they are?" "Sort of, Madam Chancellor," Americana replied. She searched her memory and vaguely recalled that jealousy, envy, and doing harm to others were considered sins. "Well then, honey, the most practical deadly sin to offer a demon is the sin of gluttony." "You mean eating too much?" "Exactly, honey. At =10 Academy, students learn to create the finest dishes imaginable to persuade demons to give them what they ask for. If the demon likes your food, he accepts it and eats. Then, he grants you the right to make a request." Suddenly, Americana felt as if a light bulb had turned on inside her brain. "I think I'm starting to understand, Madam Chancellor. That means the owner of Novakstrai offered a delicious dish to a demon. So the demon accepted the meal, ate it, and gave that person the right to make a request. That person, the scientist from Novakstrai, asked the demon how to make a unicorn panda bear, a unicorn cat, or even a dragon. Then the demon taught that person scientific things." The Chancellor stood up and applauded Americana. "Bravo, bravo, bravo. Honey, you've just learned, in the blink of an eye, what many =10 students take a whole year to understand." Americana gave a shy smile and lowered her head. Her teeth insisted on bursting into a wide grin, but her shyness made her cover her mouth. She blushed at the compliment. The Chancellor sat back down in the massage chair. Americana asked, "But what if a demon doesn't want or doesn't like the food someone offers him?" "Oh, honey, now you've asked a question that takes us to the next level." Once again, Americana leaned forward over the table, fully focused on the Chancellor. "Honey, the demon simply vomits in the person's face." The Chancellor burst into loud laughter. Americana couldn't resist. Her mouth opened wide, and she let out a laugh just as loud. The two of them laughed for quite a while. When she finally caught her breath, Americana asked, "Madam Chancellor, how does the demon know if he likes someone's food? How does the demon know if the person is being sincere in their sacrifice?" "Honey, this is a crucial detail. It's what makes all the difference in a dish offered to a demon. It could mean the difference between it being accepted or rejected. During the preparation of the meal, the person who wishes to make the pact pricks their finger with a needle or any sharp object and lets a single drop of their own blood fall into the food. When the demon eats, he'll know whether that dish was offered with sincerity or not." "And how do demons do that?" "Well, honey, demons have a perception in the spiritual realm that humans do not. Humans are considered sinners by nature. So when a person pours a drop of their own blood into the dish, the demon, upon eating, can identify which of the 7 deadly sins has been committed by that person's soul. And what if it's someone who hasn't committed any sins, Madam Chancellor? That's impossible, honey. The principles by which a demon operates allow him to trace the abyss that exists even within the most benevolent of men. Demons believe in the premise that all men and women, children or youth, adults or elders, are sinners from the day they're born to the day they die because of the fall of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And it's through that premise that a demon will always be able to track what a person has truly done or is still doing that offends God. Americana lowered her head. Suddenly, a feeling of sadness and worry crept into her chest. The Chancellor noticed the girl's sudden shift in mood and asked, "Honey, are you all right? I know I've said things that are very hard to believe, especially at first, and in such a short amount of time. But could you tell me, please, what in particular is bothering you? Maybe I can help." "It's not that, Madam Chancellor. It's just..." Suddenly, all the opportunities other people wanted were handed to me. I'm eternally grateful for that. But then, what is it, honey? It's just that you mentioned the commercial on the LED screen. The part with the guy holding the kitchen utensils. Yes, honey. That's right. I did mention it, and I told you that it's by feeding a demon that one earns its favor. Americana lowered her head even more and hunched her shoulders. The thing is, Madam Chancellor, I don't have any money to buy the materials needed to study at Equal 10 Academy. I can't even afford a pencil to write with, let alone kitchen utensils. The guy in the commercial said that starting Monday, everyone is expected to be ready with all utensils in hand. I can't pay for that, not even if I wanted to. The Chancellor leaned back in her chair and let out a soft laugh. Honey, that's called suffering in advance. Then she jumped to her feet and placed her hands on the table, smiling. Honey, look at me. We came to the precinct precisely to pick up your academic supplies. The Chancellor laughed again. Americana was completely confused. Was technological advancement in the Imperium really so bizarre that school supplies were being sold inside a precinct? Honey, we came to the precinct to gain access to the property room. What? Property room. It's the place where seized goods are kept. The word seized sent shivers down Americana's spine. Listen, honey. You are the second common person in the history of the Imperium, in the history of Equal 10 Academy, to be accepted as a scholarship student. The first person was Helena Blavatsky. Americana was still trying to connect the dots. Which means, honey, that all the academic material Helena Blavatsky once used as a scholarship student will now be inherited by you, the successor of Helena Blavatsky. Then suddenly, the attendant entered the room. Excuse me? Have you already decided what you're going to order? Oh yes, honey. We'll have everything in every flavor on the menu, said the Chancellor, answering the attendant's question. We're starving. Americana stood speechless upon hearing that the Chancellor had ordered everything on the menu. Never in her life had she walked into any place, whether to buy food or anything else, without checking the price first. And she had certainly never ordered everything on the menu. The attendant pressed what seemed to be an invisible button on the side of her glasses and began writing in the air, as if gliding her fingers over a screen only she could see. Then, all of a sudden, 7 store employees entered, pushing carts overflowing with food. Every item bore the label of the Poopkeen plush robot brand. Americana didn't know where to look first, or what to eat, so immense was the variety. There were trays of macarons and cotton candy, pink pistachio, and blue passion fruit flavors. Popcorn flavored like pizza, lasagna, fried chicken, and hot dog, which, upon contact with saliva, transformed into small pieces of the actual food, matching the described taste. There were also sweet glitter fries, covered in chocolate and whipped cream, and sodas in marshmallow, peanut butter, and jelly flavors. The Chancellor began to serve herself and gestured for Americana to do the same. Both had their plates piled high with food. Just as the Chancellor was about to take her first sip of soda, the attendant interrupted her. "Excuse me? Sorry to interrupt, but are you the Chancellor of Portals?" she asked. "Yes, that's me, honey. There's someone on the first floor asking to speak with you." "Oh, damn it. Right now?" she muttered. "Okay, no problem," said the Chancellor, looking at Americana. "Go ahead and start eating without me, honey. You must be starving. I'll see what they want and be right back." And she stood up, heading toward the door. Americana started with the savory food. She picked up one of the pizza-flavored popcorns and popped it into her mouth. In the very next instant, she felt the kernel transform into something else. She chewed, moving the food from side to side inside her mouth, until the flavor of warm chicken and katapari pizza materialized across her tongue. A few minutes passed, and the Chancellor returned to join Americana. This time, she had something in her hands. "Honey, look what I brought you," said the Chancellor, holding out something shaped like a giant egg made of polished white metal. "I told you I'd give you a gift. You're making history, honey. And I want to thank you for letting me be part of it," said the Chancellor, handing the gift to Americana. "Madam Chancellor." "Thank you so much," said Americana, her cheeks flushed. "No need to thank me, honey. And by the way, this outfit Billy gave you looks wonderful on you." "Billy never misses," the Chancellor added warmly. Americana held the object, turned it from side to side, then flipped it upside down, eventually gave up and asked, "Sorry, Madam Chancellor, but I don't think I can open it." "What is this?" "Oh, yes, honey. Let me help you," replied the Chancellor, her mouth full of chocolate-covered fries. "This is a Poopgene egg. People who live here in the Imperium have a unique code on their right hand that allows the egg to recognize them and hatch. But in your case, honey," the Chancellor took the egg and lifted it to the height of the QR code stamped on Americana's forehead. Then a green light lit up at the center of the object. "That's it. It worked." "Your mark is your unique code, honey," said the Chancellor. Next, a small neon heart appeared on the polished white metal, pulsing like a human heart. "Honey, right now the egg is preparing itself. In order to make it hatch, you need to tell it 3 happy memories. The egg has sensors that analyze your heartbeat, the tone of your voice, and the sweat on your skin. If you're telling the truth, it opens, and the Poopgene inside will be revealed. You just need to hold it and tell it." Americana held the egg in her lap and began to speak. "My first happy memory was when I was able to send money to my grandparents. For the first time, the egg vibrated. The neon heart began to beat stronger. My second happy memory was when I met Madam Chancellor. The egg vibrated even more intensely. The neon heart quickened its rhythm. My third happy memory was when I met Billy. The egg vibrated at its highest intensity. The neon light began to flash frenetically. Then, a clicking sound was heard from inside the egg. It cracked open, releasing a white smoke that smelled of caramel. "What do I do now?" asked Americana, turning to the Chancellor. But the Chancellor was wiping her eyes and blowing her nose into a handkerchief. "Oh, yes, honey. Now you just wait. It'll do everything on its own from here on out," the Chancellor replied. The eggshell opened further. 2 little paws pushed against part of the shell, and in the gap that formed, 2 eyes appeared, glowing like lit lanterns. The shell kept cracking and breaking apart more and more, until nothing remained. In the place where the large polished white metal egg had once been, There now stood a small robotic creature with panda-like fur and a unicorn horn on its forehead. FOEDUS. I'm Papandakern. What's your name? Asked the robotic bear. FOEDUS. I'm Americana. Mommy, said the robotic bear, hugging Americana. How wonderful that you two understand each other, honey. Now you can use him for everything, from cooking to helping. You with your studies at equal. 10 Academy, said the Chancellor. Americana was intrigued. How could a toy do so much? How exactly? Could it help her study? The Chancellor answered, It's all very simple, honey. The Poopkins are equipped with Psyche Evolution Neural, which means that, beyond answering any question, they also learn and develop unique personalities and behaviors. On top of that, just press his belly and a touch screen will appear with all the food and drink options. He also works as a meal prep oven. Just place the ingredients inside his belly and, in a matter of seconds, your food will come out ready and warm, or cold if you want to make ice cream. For example, can I help you with something? Asked Papandakern. Americana found herself at a loss. She didn't quite know what to ask for first, faced with so many possibilities her new toy seemed able to offer. What do you enjoy doing the most? Asked Papandakern. Americana fell silent. That question. No one had ever asked her that before, so she had to really think about what she truly liked to do. She remembered working at a tanning salon. She was grateful for the job, for the paycheck, but it wasn't something she enjoyed doing. If she'd had more options, she would have chosen something else. She liked roller skating, though. In truth, she only did it because she couldn't afford a bus ticket. So she dove into her routine and searched for what gave her joy, even in small doses. And it came to her, the moments when she cooked for Mr. Bacon. Those were moments when she didn't feel like herself. She felt like someone more important, someone who made a difference, someone who was needed. After all, if it weren't for her, the pig would only eat processed food. But with her, he ate meals made by hand, made with care. And while she cooked, she felt awaited. She felt useful. She felt alive. Then she answered, I like cooking. Understood, Mommy. I can search for any recipe of any dish or drink you like. I can also cook, bake, fry, or freeze any kind of food. Would you like to do that now? That's wonderful, honey. This way you can already start training for the King MatNat games. Arriving at equal 10, Academy already enjoying cooking, puts you a big step ahead of the other students, the Chancellor pointed out. You should prepare something right now, since classes begin on Monday. I know time hasn't exactly been on your side, honey, because everything was so last minute when we picked you up from the common world. Not to mention that whole ordeal with the hearing. But nothing that can't be fixed now. As the saying goes, better late than never. Okay, said Americana. I think I can come up with a recipe now. Wonderful, honey, said the Chancellor. There's a special room for those who want to use their poopkeen to cook. The Chancellor called the attendant, and they were all led to a room that, in truth, was a professional kitchen. They called it a room because it had sofas and a television, but every tool, appliance, and device of a professional kitchen was there. What are we making, Mommy? Sweet or savory? Hot or cold? Asked Papandakern. Americana began to think. She thought of all the recipes she had already made for Mr. Bacon, even the juices, smoothies, and slimming soups that Aunt Corinne and Miss Lily always asked her to prepare during the weeks when Lily had beauty pageants. Still, Americana didn't want to make just any dish, not with a plush robot that could cook any food in existence. It had to be something special, something she truly desired, and something rare to have nearby to taste and savor. Americana strained her mind. Her thoughts began to drift back in time to when she didn't yet live in the United States, to when she was a child. And then, like a lighthouse breaking through the storm, Americana knew exactly what she wanted to make. "I've got it," the girl said, her eyes shining. "We're going to make quebrador." "What? How?" asked the Chancellor. "Quebrador, understood, Mommy. For that, we'll need Poppendaken's belly transformed into a screen with glowing letters, displaying the recipe and preparation instructions." Americana stepped closer and read through each item, just to be sure the recipe matched what she knew by heart. On Poppendaken's belly, it read, "Ingredients: 2 eggs, 3/4 cup, 150 grams granulated sugar, 2 tablespoons unsalted butter or margarine, a pinch of salt, about 1 cup, 120 grams cornstarch, 1 tablespoon baking powder, 3/4 cup, 60 grams shredded coconut, or 1 teaspoon vanilla extract, or 1 tablespoon lemon or orange zest, optional, around 3 cups, 360 to 390 milliliters, sweet cassava starch, also called polvilho doche, or enough to form a soft, moldable dough. Instructions: preheat the oven to 180 degrees Celsius, 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Line a baking sheet with parchment paper. In a large bowl, beat the eggs, sugar, butter or margarine, and salt until light and creamy. Add the cornstarch and baking powder. Mix until fully incorporated. If using, stir in the shredded coconut, vanilla extract, or citrus zest. Gradually add the sweet cassava starch, working the dough with your hands until it becomes soft, smooth, and no longer sticky. Shape the dough into small discs or logs, about the size of a walnut, and place them on the prepared baking sheet. Bake for 15 to 20 minutes, or until the bottoms are lightly golden. Let cool completely. They will be delicate, crumbly, and melt in your mouth light. "Wow, this is amazing," said Americana, turning to the Chancellor. "The recipe he showed is exactly like the one I used to eat." "Well done, Poppendaken. You're awesome." "Thank you, Mommy," replied Poppendaken. "Shall we start cooking?" "Can we?" Americana asked the Chancellor. "Of course, honey. This is all marvelous, incredible. I can't cook a thing. I'll love trying something new." Then Americana rummaged through the fridge, the cabinets, and the pantry in that room. She gathered all the ingredients on a marble counter. She picked up Poppendaken and placed him on the counter, right next to the ingredients. "What do we do first, Poppendaken?" asked Americana. The plush robot lay down on the counter, belly facing up. A small compartment opened. Then he said, "Just place all the ingredients right here, and I'll mix the dough until it reaches the perfect consistency," said Poppendaken, pointing with his little paw to the center of his belly. Americana added all the ingredients as listed in the recipe. "It's ready, Poppendaken." "Okay, Mommy." "Just a moment," said Poppendaken. The compartment closed, and the robot's eyes began displaying a countdown from 10. When it reached 1, his belly opened. "Wow, this is amazing. The dough is ready and perfect." "Well done, Poppendaken," said Americana. "Thank you, Mommy." Then Americana and the Chancellor washed their hands. Americana took the dough, about the size of a soccer ball, and placed it on the table. She tore off a piece and rolled it between her hands, forming a small ball. Then she gently flattened it until it resembled a little frisbee. She grabbed a fork and marked an X on the top of the dough. The Chancellor watched everything and repeated the same process. In the end, they had made 38 quebradors. Seeing that everything was ready, Poppendaken said, "Bake 7 at a time, Mommy." The same compartment in Poppendaken's belly, where Americana had placed the ingredients earlier, opened once more, but this time a small baking tray slid out. Americana placed the first 7 quebradors onto the tray. and the compartment closed. Once again, Poppendakorn's eyes began a countdown from 10. When it finished, the compartment opened again, and a sweet aroma filled the room. Wow, they look delicious. I want to try one, said the Chancellor. Americana took out the first 7, placed them on a plate, and inserted 7 more to bake. Then she said to the Chancellor, when I was a child, I loved eating quebrador with soda. There's a kind of magic that happens in your mouth when the two mix. Really? Asked the Chancellor, surprised. Americana picked up 2 quebradors and handed one to the Chancellor. She opened 2 cans of marshmallow-flavored soda and gave her one. You bite the quebrador, hold the bitten piece in your mouth, on your tongue, then sip the soda and hold both in your mouth, explained Americana. The Chancellor bit into the quebrador, which broke apart effortlessly. She let the piece rest on her tongue and then took a sip of the soda. Americana did the same. The Chancellor felt as if tiny butterflies were fluttering across her tongue. She tried to smile, but her mouth was full. She chewed and swallowed, then said, Honey, this is amazing. When the soda touches the quebrador inside your mouth, thousands of little bubbles form. It's delicious. I'm glad you liked it, said Americana. The two took another bite of the quebrador and another sip of soda. They laughed with their mouths full and then repeated the process until they were interrupted by the attendant, who said, Excuse me. Sorry to interrupt. Madam Chancellor, you're being called on the first floor. The Chancellor rolled her eyes. Oh, damn it. Honey, keep baking the quebradors. I'll be right back. And she left with the attendant. As Americana placed the remaining quebradors into Poppendakorn's belly to bake, she felt a small hand tug on the Sherpa rabbit tail attached to the back of her outfit. She startled and jumped. When she looked, she saw a little boy trying to reach the quebradors sitting on the plate atop the table. Hey, little guy, said Americana, still startled. Are you here all by yourself? She looked toward the door, hoping that the boy's mother or father would appear. I want it, said the little boy. Americana picked up the plate and offered the quebrador to the child. He took it and bit into it. In less than 3 minutes, he had eaten 4 quebradors. Then, Americana heard a woman's voice in the distance. Baraka, Baraka, Baraka. Oh my God, there you are. I was so worried, said the woman, peering at the door and stepping into the room. She scooped the little boy into her arms. But he didn't want to leave. He wanted more quebradors. Baraka, son, we're leaving. We need to go back home, the mother insisted. But the little boy began to cry, pointing at the plate of quebradors on the table. After crying insistently, the mother finally gave in. Okay, we'll take a few of these. Miss, excuse me, do you work here? She asked, turning to Americana. Oh my God, you're the new scholarship girl from the news, she said, pointing at the QR codes printed across Americana's face. Americana shrank and blushed. The little boy kept crying, still begging for more quebradors. The mother lost her patience. Okay, Baraka, miss, scholarship girl, would you sell me these cookies? She asked, trying to soothe her son, who was now crying even louder. Feel free to take them, ma'am, said Americana. But the woman seemed not to hear her, so loud was the child's wailing. The mother pulled a $100 bill from her purse, tossed it on the counter, grabbed the plate with all the quebradors, and left. Poppendakorn, who had been watching the scene while baking more cookies, commented, Congratulations, Mommy. Your first sale as a chef. Would you like me to create a production and sales plan to scale your business? No. Wait. I'm not selling anything, said Americana. Then, another woman appeared at the door. Wow, what is that delicious smell? Is it coming from here? The woman stepped in and walked toward Pappendackern, sniffing the plush robot. Yes, this wonderful smell is coming from here. From this Pappendackern. Do you work here? What are you cooking? It smells amazing. Thank you, ma'am. But I don't work here. I'm just a customer, replied Americana. But the woman, distracted by the scent wafting from Pappendackern, seemed not to have heard what Americana had said. The batch Pappendackern had been baking was ready. The compartment in his belly opened. The woman barely waited for Americana to remove the quebradors. She grabbed one straight from the robot's belly and took a bite. My God, this is delicious. Is this some new release from Pupkin? She asked, turning to the robot. It's the big launch of the newest businesswoman in the food industry, Americana, also known as my mommy, replied Pappendackern. No, wait. I'm not a businesswoman, Americana tried to say. But the woman had already scooped up all 7 quebradors, stuffed them into her purse, and was heading for the exit. She left without paying, Mommy, Pappendackern warned. But I'm not a businesswoman, and I'm not selling anything, Americana repeated. 2 men suddenly appeared at the door. Is this where they're selling the new Pupkin release? Asked one of them. Wow, the smell is amazing, said the other. Yes, come in. My mommy is the newest businesswoman in the food industry, replied Pappendackern. How much is this new thing, Pappendackern? Asked one of the men. 7 quebradors cost $100, the robot answered. I'll take 14, said the first man. I want 21, added the second. No, wait. I'm not selling anything, Americana tried to say. But the 2 men didn't seem to hear her. They took cash from their wallets, placed it on the table, and walked out with plates full of quebradors. Pappendackern, you need to stop telling people that Americana began, but couldn't finish the sentence. 4 more people entered the room, asking about the new Pupkin product. Come one, come all, ladies and gentlemen. Step right up. The newest businesswoman in the food industry. My mommy. 7 units for $100. Pappendackern was announcing. People looked at him, placed their orders, and left their money on the table. Mommy, we need more dough, sighed Pappendackern. By that point, Americana had given up trying to explain anything. More and more people entered the room, formed a line, placed their orders, and laid their money down on the table. The plush robot did all, the math with perfect accuracy, and simply informed Americana of how much dough they would need. The line grew so long it spilled past the doorway. Some people in the line noticed that Americana's face was marked with QR codes. Soon, they began putting on their special lens glasses and talking, as if they were recording and live streaming to others. FOEDUS, my followers. I'm here reporting live from a physical Pupkin store, where the biggest food and entertainment brand in the Imperium is launching its latest product. According to Pappendackern, who's baking the brand's newest treat, the new product is called Quebrador, and it promises to perform magic in the mouth of anyone who eats it, said a man wearing special lens glasses, gesturing in the air as if manipulating an invisible screen. FOEDUS, my darlings. This is your #1 insider for the hottest news from the Gabora Pyramid. I'm standing in line waiting for my quebrador, the latest sensation of the moment. Hold on a second. That girl over there. She's got QR codes on her face. Oh my God, that's the new scholarship girl. Hang on, my followers. I'm going to try to talk to her. FOEDUS, scholarship girl. What's your name? Said a woman broadcasting live through her special glasses. Others in the line noticed that the one preparing the dough for the new product was the girl with QR codes marked on her face. More and more people started arriving and entering the room, all of them live streaming to their followers. The line to buy the new thing now went all the way down the stairs to the first floor. "Sweetie, give a FOEDUS to my followers, please," asked a woman, gesturing with her special glasses. "FOEDUS? What's your name? The Imperium's netizens want to know," insisted another man, also streaming live. "Americana, sir." "My name is Americana." Another woman stepped out of the line and walked up to her. "FOEDUS, Americana? Could you tell us what brand your outfit is? My followers are obsessed with your look. You're slaying it." Americana, moving back and forth as she prepared the quebro dough, answered while shaping it with her hands. "I got this outfit as a gift from Billy. Billy, my followers." The brand of the outfit worn by the new scholarship girl is Billy. Let me spell it out for you, my followers. B-Y-L-Y. Americana. FOEDUS. Can I get your autograph? I loved that phrase on your back. What does it mean? Asked another woman who had just arrived, also live streaming through her special glasses. It means, follow the rabbit, said Americana, trying to answer while staying focused on the ingredients she was grabbing from the fridge. Attention, followers of my channel. The new trending hashtag is #FollowTheAmericana, announced a man who had approached and overheard the conversation. Meanwhile, Papandakon was juggling tasks, mixing the ingredients, baking the quebradores, and collecting money from the customers, until the room became so crowded there was no space left for anyone else. Then, squeezing through the crowd, pushing and stepping on a few toes, the Chancellor managed to make her way to Americana. "Honey, what is going on?" the Chancellor asked. "I can't really explain, Madam Chancellor. Things suddenly got out of control," Americana tried to justify. Just then, one of the Pouptine store attendants called out for everyone's attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, please, I need you all to leave this area. It's not safe to have so many people crammed into such a small room. The risk of an accident is too high if anything unexpected happens. I need you to clear the space," the attendant shouted. While everyone was focused on the attendant's announcement, the Chancellor leaned in and whispered to Americana, "Honey, we need to go. Now, 2 hours and 45 minutes have already passed. We need to be at the precinct right now. Crouch down and come with me." The Chancellor gestured for Americana to crouch and move through the crowd. "Wait, Madam Chancellor. My Papandakon," the girl said, reaching over the counter to grab the plush robot. Papandakon, just before being pulled away, cried out, "Wait, the money," and stretched his little arm as far as it would go, scooping up all the cash from the table. They managed to slip out unnoticed while the crowd remained focused on the attendant's warning. At the store exit, the Chancellor headed toward the register to pay for what they had used. Americana, with Papandakon in her arms, took the money from the robot's tiny hands and handed it to the cashier. Puzzled by where all that money had come from, the cashier looked up to ask, but whoever had handed it over was no longer there. Americana, Papandakon, and the Chancellor were already a block away, making their way toward Thoth Precinct.